Hi guys, it's Blackie.
And Bear.
Well, the squirrel hunt did not produce much this morning, but we had fun. We got out and walked around, do a little bit of look.
Squirrels 1, hunters 0.
Yeah. And I'll put that little teeny amount of footage in right here. Hi guys. Early morning squirrel hunt between me and Bear. Using our double barrels this morning. And don't laugh, it's 144 inches of legal hunter orange. Is just, I use my hat band to trap it on top of my hat so you can see it. We're out in some really good cover. And if you look right through there, you will see that orange cap of bear. Right there. That's Bear. He's squirrel hunting over there. Heard a few of them. Hadn't seen nothing yet. May get skunked, but what the heck? We're just having fun. I'm sitting on my blackbird haversack up against a big old cypress tree down here in this bottom. It's just an enjoyable, beautiful morning. Be back with you in a minute. Okay, so far squirrels are winning. We haven't seen anything close up. We've heard them.
Yeah, they're barking.
But it's one of them mornings they ain't wanting to be cooperative. And that's okay. I'm just enjoying being out in the woods with Bear.
Well, yeah, that's one reason they call it hunting and not gathering.
Yeah, it's hunting. You're hunting for it, but
plus it's a cool morning.
Yeah.
Damp.
Cool and damp, and
I didn't much want to get out of bed either.
Nah, they're wanting to stay in position. We understand that. Oh well, we'll walk around a few more minutes, and we're going to sit down and do an old Wayz. So just hang with us, guys. Be back with you in a minute. Okay, but you know, it's cold, it's damp, and it feels like it's going to rain.
Very much.
And so I think everything just gone to ground. This cold snap, you know, we were in the 80s just 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And now here it is in the 30s. And it's probably warmed up to about high 40s right now. But yeah, and then we got next week is where it's supposed to be the high down here. We're talking about the high is going to be 34 or 35. Yeah, that'll be fun. So, yeah, right now the squirrel's just gone to ground, etc. So no big deal. We'll get out and do it. But I wanted to, we wanted to get out together and bring you guys along. Now I know somebody's going to ask about.
I'm hunting with the Sheik of South Alabama.
Well, it says 144 inches of hunter orange. That's 12 by 12. That qualifies. And I can still wear my hat. It's just a hunter orange bandana I put over my thing and use a hat band to do it.
It absolutely works.
It does. It's not the first time I have protected my head in such a way.
Yeah.
So they can see it. And also, carrying one of these, a lot of times I carry it on top of my haversack as your bandana, your grab, your whatever. Signaling device, yeah. Whatever. And it just helps to be able to attract attention with it.
If you're down here, you don't have to worry too much about it. We're on my family's place. But if you're out on public land hunting, the more the merrier. Some of those knuckleheads down there will shoot anything that moves.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was up under a big oak one morning squirrel hunting and had been there since before first light. And no, I have not modified the Blackbird. This is a slip-on thing I'm field trialing for a shotgun shells that I'm giving to Bear because it will fit 12 gauge better than it does the 20 right now. And there's a gentleman a retired gentleman that's local that he, yep, oh, he started making these, and so me and him are talking. Once we get it figured out, I'll let y'all know if you want one too. Just slide onto your haversack strap to carry shells. Since I usually use a single shot or whatever, 3 is good. Bear would like one with 4 on it because we're doing double barrels today. That way you got 3 reloads, 2 and then 4 with 2 separate reloads.
Yeah, and just 4 would give you 2 full reloads on a double.
So therefore, that was the idea. But yeah, I was sitting up under a big oak tree. Been there since before dawn, looking for squirrels. And sun came up good, and I'm looking around and everything, and I guess he was seeing I had a white t-shirt up under my jacket. I guess that's what he was seeing. And I heard over yonder, a couple hundred yards out, I heard pow, whack. Something hit the tree a couple feet above me. I went, dang. I looked up and barked and blowed off probably 6 feet above me. And then the sucker shot again and hit. And it dawned on me, he's shooting at me. It was not a freak, it just happened to hit. It was actually, he was shooting at me. So I rolled around on the back side of the tree and tried to holler and tell him, you damn idiot, it ain't a deer.
You didn't fire back.
I may have played semaphore.
You cannot confirm nor deny.
I cannot confirm nor deny, but I think you got the idea that this one resisting.
This one bites back.
This one's biting back a little bit. But yeah, I had a dog hunt years ago that I had walked out to get the dog, and there was a sunken road, and I come up on the edge of the bank. And when I stepped off and landed in the road, we will call him married in family, I guess saw movement and shot in my direction. So I ended up with a couple of pellets in me. Luckily it wasn't anything lethal.
Yeah.
One hit me in the back of back of my bicep, and one hit me back here. Kind of my upper back, and it just went in real shallow. We dug it out. Of course, that was
probably the end of his hunting.
Well, that was the trip to the ER, because I went down there and explained it very vocally to him, how I felt about being a target. So that was a long time ago.
Sometimes you just have to get down to where the cows can eat the cabbage.
You just got to get them to understand that they messed
to that
up.
Basic level.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't reckless or anything like that. It's just the way life was. And we hunted so much, and people would come in to be part of the family or whatever, or they would come wanting to hunt. And, we'd usually put them in the dead center.
Yeah.
That way we had family on either side, and we knew to kind of lean back a little bit and let them be up on the upper point.
Well, that's another, I won't call it a problem, but that's a concern when you're hunting in groups.
Mm-hmm.
You hunt with the same bunch of folks weekend after weekend after weekend. You learn each other.
Yeah.
You know how each other thinks. Then you bring in the oddball. Who
Yeah.
knows that? Who couldn't grab his butt with both hands.
Yeah.
And he's going to be the weak link.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be the person that's going to screw. If something screws up, he's going to be the guy that does it.
Me and my stepbrothers, and hunting with that side of the family over there, it would make those guys mad because we were so quiet. I mean, you didn't hear us. We was like a deer sneaking through there, and we'd doing a drive, and he'd suddenly look up, and there we were, and they'd jump out of their skin. Heck, we knew exactly where they are. They're right there, 25 yards away. We're all moving through or whatever. We knew where they were, but they couldn't hear us, and so that kind of spooked them. Said, boy, put a bell on or something. I went, why? We're trying to hunt. I'm trying to be, step on a stick or something every so often. Let me know where you're at. Okay.
True story. When I was a baby, I was so quiet that Mom and Daddy had to put hawk bells on my shoes just to find me.
I've heard that, yeah. That's one of the reasons I went to wearing my car keys on the belt. Because I'd come, growing up in the woods in my day-to-day job, in retail, I'd come walking up to a coworker, and they'd jump out of their skin because they'd never hear me come up. Because you just, out of habit, the way you walk and you choose shoes and stuff, it don't make a lot of noise.
Long time ago, I worked for the Alabama Department of Corrections as a corrections officer, and my inmates called me the ghost for exactly that same reason.
Yeah, you never hear you walking by.
Never hear me walk up. One minute I'm not there, and the next minute I'm there.
Yeah, and that's just it. You got to be kind of quiet and easy, you know. But you know, we were doing it for food, so you just kind of got instinctively about being quiet.
Well, you know, the more it's like we have said in past old ways, as you learn your territory, you're going to move with the territory. You're going to blend with it, and you're going to just instinctively avoid those sticks or the brush that's hanging out or whatever it is, and you become part of it instead of unintentionally fighting it. You're going to become part of it. Which is what we were talking about, guys, a couple of old ways ago. Whether you're living in New York City and hang out in Central Park, or you're, out west somewhere, or even in this area, the more you're in your environment, the more attuned to your environment you will be, and the quieter you will move.
And the unnatural sounds will stand out to you better.
Yeah.
I mean, we got out of the truck, we got set up, and we hadn't gone 10 yards from the truck. Neither one of us said a word after that. For the next hour and a half, we stayed within 50 yards of each other. And we didn't have to talk, because we just, you ease along. If he stopped, I heard him stop, I stopped. Okay, has he got a shot or what? And you just moved together and know that I'm going to walk forward and see if the squirrel's going to flip the tree, because those of you that don't hunt squirrels will detect the danger and get on the back side of the tree. So we would pause, and then he or I would start off and start walking, and we're watching the tree. The one stationary is walking to see if squirrels swap sides, give us a shot, and it's just instinct. We didn't have to say, okay, your turn, my turn. We just knew who's going to go next.
We just swap.
We just swap around, back and forth. And point X, without saying nothing, we both realized, let's just sit down. And he didn't say a word to me. He just went off in the woods to the left. I went off in the woods to the right. And that's that footage where I brought it up and I zoomed it in and said, there's a bear. And he looked at me like, why in the hell are you talking?
I could hear him mumble. I couldn't tell what he was saying, but yeah, I heard him.
What's he doing? What's he talking? Shut up, we're hunting. Oh, but
we had a good barker though. We had a good one. He was in one of the oak trees, and they have a bark that's similar to winding up an old time clock. For those of us who are old enough to remember old wind up clocks, they go rink, rink, rink. And we never could get him.
He knew what he was doing.
Oh yeah, he knew he could talk and get away with it.
He'd talk, and then he'd stay ahead of us, moving through the trees, where we wouldn't get a shot at him. He knows what he's doing. But now, next month, after all these leaves or all these live oaks start dropping, he'll be kind of in the open out there a little bit, and he won't be able to hide so easy up in that canopy. So we'll get him. But oh yeah, this video will be posted up. I think Sunday is Christmas. Next Sunday is
Christmas.
Well, this will be posted on Christmas Day. So Merry Christmas to everybody if you're watching this.
And a very Merry Christmas to all.
And hopefully you'll have a happy New Year and a better year next year.
What are some of your fondest memories of Christmases past?
Oh, when I was little, and this is going to date me, we had an aluminum Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And putting one of those rotating lights, so the whole tree turned green and red or yellow. And
my grandmother had one of those.
Yeah. When I was real little, I was probably 5 or 6. And remembering just laying in the floor and watching that tree change colors. That was absolute magic to me.
It was, because I remember, I did it.
Yeah, just sit there and watch it, and having those little bitty tinsels of aluminum would be because the air was moving in there. They'd shimmer. It was just magic.
They sparkled.
It sparkled, and
And that's just absolutely mesmerizing for a kid.
yeah.
For a lot of grown-ups too.
Well, Christmas would usually be, of course, you're going to get practical stuff for most of it. So it'd be new clothes or whatever,
Yeah.
shoes, belt, something like that.
Well, like we've said, we're products of literally of the Victorian era
Yeah,
because our grandparents were true Victorians,
yeah,
and our parents were first generation after them.
yep.
I mean, and we're the second generation after them, so we're a product of the Victorian era. We're showing our age.
It would be,
The practical gifts. And my point is the practical gifts.
yeah,
I still give practical gifts. It drives my kids nuts,
yeah.
but I still give practical gifts.
It would be one or two toys,
Oh, sure. Absolutely. You got to have toys.
but then the rest of it would be practical. And I can honestly say, I think, and I may have mentioned in videos before, since I was born crippled and I didn't learn to walk till I was 5, my sister, Charlotte, is the one that kind of influenced me and taught me how to read when I was very little. And so when I got into first grade, I could already read. And
And you're still ahead of the curve.
oh yeah, I mean the book I read in first grade was Beowulf.
That's heavy reading.
It was not to me. It had a monster in it and had Vikings in it and everything else. Oh, it was exciting.
Did you read it in the old Celtic, or
No.
did you read it in English?
Plain old English.
That's cheating.
I hadn't got into the old English stuff yet, but the reason I bring that up is I remember my uncle Luther, when I was 7 years old, Christmas when I was 7, gave me a book that was about like that thick, and it was one of them Reader's Digest books
Yeah.
that you get
Yeah.
or whatever, and they didn't have nothing, and he could barely read himself, and so I guess he gave it to me because I read, but forget the toys, that was the most wonderful book
Oh, yeah.
to me. And it was nothing, that I can even recall any of the stories, but I just remember it was a big book, and it was mine.
Well, a book is one of the best gifts that you can give a child, or an adult for that matter, because you can draw into that book. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Patrick O'Brien. Patrick O'Brien's Master and Commander series. I've read through the whole series like 3 times, and you just get absorbed. You get absorbed into it, and you can picture everything that's going on in your mind. And I have sailed clear around the world on an 18th century British frigate 3 times,
Reading that book.
reading those books, and it's marvelous. You can. I'll be honest. I have trouble reading things like Shakespeare because it gets so ponderous. But I have read my that's what I'm looking for. I've read my share of Shakespeare. And
Yeah, because when we were in school, you had to.
you had to read it.
But the secret to that was, and what really helped me with Shakespeare was, it needs to be spoken.
Yes.
It's a play.
Yeah,
Forget about
yes.
it being a book. It's a play.
Yeah.
And when you'd read it, and it didn't make exact sense in our southern dialect, but if you would just read it aloud, it made sense then.
And the funny part of that is our southern dialect is the closest to the way that they spoke it in Shakespeare.
It really is. The Canterbury Tales
Yeah.
and Shakespeare were written about 100 years apart, and the English language and pronunciation had changed so radically
Yeah.
that there's a very good chance that Chaucer and Shakespeare wouldn't have been able to understand each other.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Chaucer wrote what, Middle English?
Yeah,
Something like that. I digress.
but yeah, in that, and so as far as books and things like that, that was, for me, There's a handful of Christmases in there that really stand out, of course, when you got your first gun, but I inherited my first
Yeah,
one.
but those were gifts more than likely from your Uncle Luther.
Uncle
Which
Luther
made
or
them
Uncle
that
Bill or
much more
something like
special.
that, and it's a memory for that. I got a hunting vest.
Uh-huh.
It had the pocket in it. Whoo, that was big. Which meant the next year you got to play fetch. When you went there and whoever it was gave you the vest, what you didn't realize was they were going to be using you for the dog fetch. They'd be shooting the birds and you'd be going out in them briars to go get them.
But every minute was worth it
Oh yeah.
because you were out there with them. You were out playing with the big boys.
I know the Christmas gift I gave back, and everybody laughed, and that was from my Uncle Henry. I was 9 years old when we were down at my dad's doing the Christmas down there. And Uncle Henry gave me, he said, "I'm giving you a knife, boy. I'm giving you a knife." And I unwrapped the package, and it was an oyster knife.
Uh-oh.
And I walked over and went, "No, thank you." Because I knew what that gag was. He would teach you how to shuck oysters, and then the next thing you know,
You had a new job.
you got a new job. All your uncles are going to watch Alabama football or whatever, and they got a 50-pound bag of oysters, and your job is to sit there and shuck like a fiend. Give me another one. Come on. Hurry up, boy. Hurry up, boy. No, thank you.
Another dozen, table two.
Nope. I done seen my cousin Scotty get stung with that. Nope, I ain't doing it.
Oh.
Everybody laughed when I gave him back. I said, "No, sir. Thank you very much, but no, sir."
One of my favorite memories is when I was a little boy. My granddaddy, this was our cattle farm, and my granddaddy would go around during this. He had started in the middle of the summertime, cruising the edges of the field looking for Christmas trees for me. And he would just ride around in his truck, and we would find one that suited him and mark it. Well, the thing is, you got to remember about a tree. When you pick it out in the field, it's only this tall. Well, magically, when you get it into the house, it's this tall. All of a sudden. And we got stung a couple of times with treetops that did that, but I remember wandering around out here with him to cut the Christmas tree, he and Daddy and I, and my brother after he was born. I remember those are fond Christmas memories for me. And like you were saying with books, I got books too. It was a wonderful thing.
Well, I loved, because I had such a passion for Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone and all like that, and I got a belt knife that you used to see in all the hardware stores that had the fake the plastic
fringe.
handles that looked like stag,
Yeah.
and it said original Bowie on it.
Yeah. You pull it out and it looks absolutely nothing like a Bowie.
Oh no!
But it ain't. Who cares?
You're a kid, but I remember getting one of those for Christmas. Got a sharpening stone one year. I remember very distinctly, and of course there was also the practical stuff. A new jacket, because I was getting all the time getting hand-me-downs from other family members. Luckily, I had enough male hand-me-down family members that I could get stuff, and I got a flight jacket that would act when I was about 9 or 10 years old that actually fit me. God knows how. And this was an issue. That had to be one of the smallest people in the damn Air Force, because it fit me. I mean, those slicky nylon-y that had the elastic on the cuffs and had the bright orange inside. And it was actually issued, but it fit my scrawny little butt.
That's all that counts.
That's all that mattered, Most jackets fit me like I was a bell. There was a big gap all the way around because I was so scrawny. When I was 12 years old, I weighed 75 pounds at 12. I was straight up, straight down, no curve. When I graduated high school, I was 5'2" and 125 pounds. I'm 5'10", 195 pounds now. But, I was a little bit of a skinny dude.
I'm not going to tell you what I weighed at 12.
Oh, I could turn sideways and just disappear, Yeah, but I remember you looked like a bear in school. Had them huge forearms and everything else. You're
you
like a
could
power
always-
lifter.
You could always pick me out of the class photos because everybody's here and then there I am.
Yeah, but you look like this, you know. I remember in school the kid that we'd gone to the playground, and that kid was giving you hell, and I remember you just got a hold of both of his wrists, put his wrist against his hips, picked him up over your head and walked over and dropped him on the other side of the fence. That kid didn't weigh 65 pounds. And we were what, in like 5th grade or something like
Something like
4th
that.
grade, 5th grade. And you just dropped him over the fence, and that was out of bounds, and he was in trouble because he was out of bounds.
I can neither confirm nor deny that action.
Yeah, I remember that. That kid came running back crying because he had to run around a half a city block to get back to the school because he couldn't climb that fence. Oh yeah.
Christmas morning, we always do what we call Eggs Benedict. And
Ooh, fancy stuff.
yeah, Daddy got a taste for it. We had to have it every Christmas.
The thing that I wanted for that, if you were going to pick something, and my grandmother would say, what you want for Christmas? You know, Christmas dinner was pre-ID. I ain't got no input in that. But what would you want for lunch or what would you want for breakfast? And I wanted fried salt pork. Oh, my cardiologist is loving this part, but fried salt pork, fried like bacon.
Yep.
And then my granny would make these scrambled eggs that she'd put a little bit of homemade heavy cream into whenever she whipped it up.
Yeah.
And they were just as fluffy and light, and then there would be a big old biscuit in that. So it was fried salt pork, eggs, and that.
I've eaten enough of that to fill the back end of this pickup truck.
Oh my God, I could eat my body weight. I just said crunch, 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 crunch. She'd do it back in them days. I had teeth.
Yeah.
And I'd sit there and just crunch and eat that, and I just loved it. You know.
The stuff you buy in the package in the store is a poor second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just to be straight up honest with you. It will pass if you're, if that's what you absolutely want to have. If you want to have salt pork, go get you some of that stuff that's in the grocers in the meat section, and be sure you soak it for a few minutes. Okay, draw some of that salt out of it, fry it up, and eat it. Mm-hmm. It's good, but it's not homemade bacon.
Mm-hmm. The ones I remember was family made, and yeah, it was salty, but not just like eating a spoonful of salt,
Right.
but it was salty.
That's why I said so. If you buy it at the grocery store in the
Just soak it about
Yeah.
10 minutes.
yes, please. Your cardiologist will thank you for it.
I like to put on a pot and just drop it into a little bit of water and not really boil it, but bring it up to a hot simmer for just a minute.
Yeah,
And then
2-3
fish it
minutes.
out, let it drain, then slice it, then fry it.
Yeah.
And, oh yeah. Makes
Yeah.
me crave it right now. Now I want to go home and cook salt pork. Oh boy.
Does
But-
Mrs. Blackie eat it?
She's not as, well, my cardiologist absolutely don't want me to eat anything that salty, but, you know, she
Doc,
would eat it
put
if I
your
could.
fingers in your ears.
Yeah,
Fast forward through this part.
yeah. I'm probably going to have to just, you know, lay off the salt completely for a month and be able to eat one good meal of that because it's way too much salt for me, but what the hell. You know, if something's got to get you, it might as well be good food. But yeah, on Christmases, we didn't have the big family type things. You know, I didn't have a big family like you did. Or I was part of a large family, but it was cells, you know, groups. And so they would be, usually on Christmas Day would be we normally gave gifts on Christmas Eve. Mm-hmm. And then on Christmas Day was getting up and doing breakfast, and then probably about lunch we'd go to one of my grandmother's sisters or brothers for an hour or two, and then we'd hop over here for an hour or two, and then go over there for an hour or two. And by the time I was 15, 16, I could get out of all that because we were going hunting. And the family members that enjoyed hunting, stuff like that, and it was a lot of times it's an opportunity for family members that lived off to come home.
Yeah, that's what it was with my mom's family.
Mm-hmm.
We would generally meet up the weekend before Christmas, and we would exchange gifts and eat. We're counting the children, the in-laws, and the grandchildren, and my grandparents. There were probably 40 of us there,
Mm-hmm.
and we just had a grand old time, meeting, greeting, and eating. The Southern tradition.
Oh yeah. Well, with us it'd be getting up at when my grandmother was still around. She'd make me up biscuits the night before, and they'd be sitting in the oven. And I'd get up and go in there and I'd turn the oven on. There wasn't no microwave back in them days. And I'd finish getting dressed. By then the coffee was ready, and I'd drink the coffee. The biscuits had warmed up, and I'd wrap them up in aluminum foil and stick them in the pockets of my coat.
Yeah.
And
The original pocket warmer.
they were hand warmers, and I would eat them in my deer stand later on. Go deer hunting. You'd go out in the morning and you'd do your deer stand, and then at about 9 or 10 you'd come out and everybody would group up and we'd start pushing heads, and then we might run dogs after lunch.
A head is a dry creek
Yeah.
that goes back into the hillside. That's what a head is.
Any big patch of woods that was kind of deep, thick, we just form a line and go through it in a line and try to push game in front of us.
Yeah.
And if it's brown, it's down. That's when the little ones would be brought out. You know, the 5, 6, 7-year-olds would come out. Mama would bring them out, and they'd have their croaker sacks or their game bags. And they were to follow the adults and stay with us. And that way, when we shot a squirrel, we shot a rabbit or whatever, we'd holler for need a dog.
Runner.
One of them come running up. The dogs got to get special praise and stuff like that for their job of collecting for the family.
Yeah.
Oh, I felt so bad. I shot this big fat coon one morning. That sucker had been eating good in the neighborhood. I mean, that was probably a 25-pound coon. That thing was huge. And I was a little concerned when I shot it, to be honest with you. I got up and got to poking that thing. Was he bloated or what? But I picked him up. No, he's just that heavy.
He's just that heavy.
And it was one of my little cousins, and she was 7 years old, and she didn't weigh 45 or 50 pounds.
Yeah.
And this coon was half her body weight. And she come up and she said, "I'll carry it." I said, "Baby, I really don't think you can carry this." And we got it in that sack, and she got it over her shoulder, Santa Claus style, with this determination. She went tromping back to the truck with that thing. I think she had to stop 10 times before she got it back to the truck.
But she accomplished the
She
mission.
did it, by God.
Good for her.
And whenever we all got together later for the big eat and everything, I made sure to praise her big for the fact of her hauling that coon out. But it was half her body weight.
Yeah.
But she wanted to be in the woods with us. She wanted to participate.
And that's good.
It was fantastic.
That's good. I can occasionally I can drag my daughter out here kicking and screaming, but she knows what she's doing. She just doesn't like to do it very much.
My cousin Pam, we made good hunting partners. We really did. Pam should have been a female basketball player. She was tall and skinny.
Really.
But now I'm here to tell you, her eyesight was not that great. Even with her glasses, she had a limited range of probably about 35, 40 yards.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it became too blurry, even with glasses. And so, if we were going to push heads and it was thick cover, yeah, I'd put her in the front. I'd back her. If we got into an open area, she'd just back me because she knew I could see out to 200-300 yards, and I had a 30-06 I could reach out. But you give her, I like my cap and ball revolvers, you give her a .357 and loaded properly to shoot small game or whatever, and we'd go walking them heads, and she was deadly, boy. I mean, she could pull, shoot, she was good.
Yeah, my daughter shoots as good or better than all three of her brothers.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, Christmas, it's one of my most special holidays to me, just not only for the reason behind it. If you have any questions about that, read Luke chapter 2.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, you know, being there with the magic that my mom and dad poured into it for us growing up, and then when our children started coming along, you know, it was me and my wife, and then my brother and his wife, and mom and dad. And the kids didn't stand a chance. They just were absolutely. It was their time. And now that I've got grandchildren, you know, it's the circle of life. And
Now we get to be Santa Claus.
now we get to we get to spread some of that magic as Santa's helpers.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the big thing of it. It becomes more important to you.
Yeah.
And with my bunch not being heavily church bound, I will say, but we did usually, depending on when Christmas was, if like this one, if it fell on a Sunday or close to a Sunday or whatever, well then there was the hunting and stuff like that on Christmas morning. But by God, at 6 o'clock, you're going to church Sunday night, you know, and so you better be at the house, cleaned up, in your Sunday go to meeting outfit, hair slicked back.
Yeah.
You better not be smelling like deer pee, you know, and go up there and be there. I remember my one of my family members, she come up, she was big in the church, and that year, if I remember correctly, the Christmas was going to be on Saturday, and they were going to hold church service. Instead on Sunday, they were going to hold it on that Saturday night, that Christmas Day night.
Yeah.
And it was going to be at 6 o'clock. And I got a big deer, and it was heck getting it out and everything, and at 4:30 I was covered in mud, gore, everything else. And the buddy I was with, he was like, you know, dude, I was just dang tired. I mean, I could barely hold my eyes open. He said, just tell her you ain't gonna go. I said, you do not understand.
This is Grandma.
You know, you're going. And I didn't have time to run home. I had my clothes to put on that night, and I had planned on going to her house, taking a shower and going with her. Well, that ain't happening. And here it is 5:30, you know, and there was a car wash. You know the car wash in front of City Hall?
Yeah.
That one.
Oh boy.
I handed him the quarters, he put it in. I stripped down to a pair of shorts and a car wash. I took a shower quick.
That hurt.
Oh, it hurt, baby.
That hurt.
But I got all the blood and guts and gore and everything off of me. I was muddy from one end to the other, blew it all off, cleaned up, dried up, got my clothes up, and it's 6:02. I was stepping in the door of the church. My hair was still wet. You know, but I was, by God, not muddy, and I was there.
Public service announcement, PSA for safety.
Mm-hmm.
If you're using buck lure, don't put it on you.
Yeah, put it on something else.
Put it on a piece of cotton, hang it up in the tree. He talked about smelling like
Dopey
buck
and
lure.
yeah.
Don't do that. Don't
Yeah.
do that because the deer will come after you and not the piece of cotton in the bush.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Tampons are your friend. You put the lure on the tampon and hang it up.
Absolutely. That works.
And it'll biodegrade if you don't get it because it's just cotton and string.
Yeah. It is what they call it, environmentally safe.
It is environmentally friendly. Yep. Which that was one of my favorite things. If I'm going to be here, and right there is where the deer trails come together, and that's where I want it. I want to hang that thing about that high.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 feet off the
I
ground.
wanted the buck to stop and do like that and put his nose up so he was dead still with his head straight up when I took aim on him.
Yep.
Valhalla Express leaving track 5. Power. But, you know, that was a lot of it. To me, it was, Christmas was the getting gifts, giving gifts. It was getting to see a lot of the old family members because somewhere around in there, sometimes on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, the day after, was the trip to the nursing homes to see the old family members that couldn't get out anymore. If they had not been brought out for family, maybe their health or whatever, dementia where they couldn't be, we'd go and visit. The hunting time, etc. You know, because we would be off for two and a half weeks for Christmas, man, it was hunting and doing stuff. And of course, if you got the new gun for Christmas, they was going and sighting that in. It was an exciting and wonderful time.
Yeah, a time to be with family and friends
Hmm.
and have fun. You know.
And like we said about rites of passage, when you were the first time your parents trusted you with a pocket knife, the first time they trusted you to light the fire, the first time you were trusted to be part of something at church,
Yeah.
where there was nothing but just stand there and hold this.
Yeah, you're angel number 3 in
You're
the back.
angel number 3. Hush and stand there.
Stand there and be nice.
Or read something in church or whatever. I mean, those were rites of passage to us.
Yeah.
When Christmas dinner, when, in my family, everybody cooked. When you were cooking one of the major dishes of Christmas dinner, because they wanted you to cook it, because you were good at it.
That's the key.
Yeah.
You were good at it.
I was good at it.
That was your niche.
And they wanted me to cook this for the family. I want you to make that, so I would make that as my contribution. It was a time of family and friends and faith and giving thanks.
And it mostly still is.
Mm-hmm.
It's beginning to lose some of that luster, but for the most part, all those things still carry today.
Actually, I feel it's more coming back to it.
I hope so.
Because of what I have seen in the last 20 years. By really the late 90s, it drifted so far away from that.
Yeah.
And in the last, I'd say 5 years, of the young people I know that have got kids right now, and what I'm hearing about their plans and stuff, it started to drift back more toward the friends and family and stuff.
You're right. You're right. I have noticed that too. Just hadn't thought about it.
Everything goes in cycles.
Yeah, the teenagers today, the folks that graduated high school, say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they're not so much into the sacred part of the season, but the younger ones are.
Yeah.
And there does seem to be a trend back that way.
I mean, I've got several friends who are big people in their churches, and they said they don't have a shortage of people.
Yeah.
Now that was not true back in the late 90s and early 80s. I remember several churches got down to where they didn't have hardly any congregation anymore.
Yeah, that's up until the late 20-teens, mid-20-teens, 2015 or so. There was a steep decline.
Yeah, but now you're seeing more. It goes in cycles.
It's leveling back off and climbing.
Remember 1968. I didn't understand how big this was, but one of them church services at Christmas, and I remember sitting there with my aunt, and it was either my sister or it might have been my mother on the right-hand side. I remember my aunt on the left. And I remember her looking back. Somebody got to the church a little late, and the preacher done started talking. And she turned around and looked to see who it was come in, and it just totally shocked her. And I remember her and my mama just about, which they were gossip queens and everything, that...
Say it isn't so.
Oh,
Say
yeah.
it isn't so.
4 methods of communication, television, telephone, telegraph, and tell my mother. It'll get everywhere. And I didn't understand what it was. What was he? Was a World War II vet. And he came to church that day. He cleaned up and came in. And
Probably had not been in since the end of the war.
No, he had seen too much.
Yeah.
And but the fact that he showed up, it just totally floored everybody, because he was the one person you thought you'd never see go back into a church. So.
It made Christmas Christmas.
It did. The fact that he showed up, and afterwards, everybody brings little potlucks.
Yeah.
Everybody's already at Christmas Day. Everybody's so stuffed. Nobody's really. You're bringing the extra stuff that nobody liked at your house. It was the pecan turnip thing that you tried that didn't fly. You'd bring to the church and put it on the table because nobody's eating it's going in the trash because nobody at your place wanted it. And I remember everybody being in there and just everybody wanted to talk to him.
Yeah.
Because it was the first time he'd been in, and I didn't understand it as much then. I do now.
Yeah.
He had PTSD real bad. In fact, he finally got around to coming back to the church.
Right.
But anyway, not to get all mushy and religious on y'all, but we'll call it quits. But guys, we really want to say from the bottom of our hearts, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you, and hope that next year is very, very good for you.
Yeah. From me and mine, Merry Christmas and a blessed and very prosperous New Year.
Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie,
And Bear.
wishing you safe journeys. Merry Christmas.